Tengah hari ini kita ada satu kumpulan gabungan rakyat membantah FTA yang datang ke sini untuk buat persidangan akhbar ini. Gabungan ini ada 33 kumpulan NGO macam di belakang sini Dan mereka datang ke sini kerana mereka khawatirlah dengan pesatnya kerajaan kita sedang tinjau FTA dengan sekarang pada masa ini ada satu kumpulan di Eropah dia nak buat Malaysia FTA, Malaysia Eropah FTA. Dan satu lagi usaha ialah untuk adakan Trans-Pacific Partnership. 9 countries involved, termasuk Malaysia, US, Chile dan beberapa lagi. So actually bila mereka kata FTA, Free Trade Agreement, dia ini lebih daripada hanya perdagangan. It's more than just trade, Dia juga ada isu-isu, syarat-syarat berkenaan dengan investment. Umpamanya dalam FTA yang biasa, mereka ada satu klausa expropriation. Dalam klausa ini, katakan kerajaan membuat satu undang baru yang sekat untung syarikat swasta. Dia boleh mendakwa kerajaan Malaysia ke Mahkamah International mengatakan, you have reduced my profit, you kena bayar saya pampasan. Macam baru-baru di Uruguay apa yang berlaku ialah kerajaan membawa satu regulasi mengatakan nak simpan gambar atas kotak sigaret. Mengatakan jika rokok boleh dapat bara ke apa dia macam di Malaysia lah. So when they did that, Philip Morris pergi ke Mahkamah Antarabangsa mengatakan bila buat macam itu, saya punya penjualan akan turun. So saya akan rugi. Dan dia mendakwa kerajaan Uruguay, katakan you're causing me loss. Ini expropriation. Dia pakai klausa dalam FTA. So itulah masalah. Ini bukan hanya perdagangan, tapi juga investment, government procurement, berapa perkara. Dan ini akan menyekat policy space, ruangan untuk kerajaan kita membuat regulasi ke, membuat undang-undang ke, kerana dia boleh didakwa oleh syarikat-syarikat swasta mengatakan your new regulation is affecting my income. So I think I won't speak very much on this. I'll pass over to Ms. Sania from the Third World Network to give a few points on the FTA. Sania?
Terima kasih. Dalam bahasa Inggeris boleh ya?
Boleh.
In these Trans-Pacific Partnership and European Union Free Trade Agreement negotiations, the Americans and Europeans are demanding that Malaysia agree to a number of things that will make it harder for Malaysia to develop. Some of these are that Malaysia opens up to European and American companies and their products. So how will Malaysia be able to compete with this? For example, we know that the US is demanding that Malaysia remove all of its tariffs on US products, including rice. And the US and the European Union still subsidize their farmers a lot. And these agricultural subsidies will not and cannot be removed in these free trade agreements. So that means that American rice is more than 20 cents per kilo cheaper than Malaysian rice. So if Malaysia cannot have taxes on US rice coming into Malaysia, Malaysian rice farmers cannot compete with this subsidized US rice. They are also demanding something called stronger intellectual property protection, and this has been shown to increase medicine prices in countries that had to agree to it by 845,600%. And when Australia estimated the impact of this when it was negotiating a free trade agreement with the USA, it found that these higher medicine prices for just 5 medicines for just 2 years, and the US is demanding it for all medicines for 5, maybe 11 years, the costs of this would be more than 28 times greater than the total benefits of the whole free trade agreement with the United States, according to the Australian Parliament's estimates. And, as Dr. Devraj said, they are also asking for more protection for their companies when they come to Malaysia. So if the Malaysian government does regulations or policies that reduce their profits, they will ask for cash compensation at an international tribunal. And these companies have already won under existing free trade agreements with the USA for things like banning toxic chemicals, banning a toxic waste dump, taxation, ordinary regulations that governments do. if you even want to change your regulations or bring in new regulations, for example, to deal with the financial crisis, the way that the United Nations has recommended, this is also prohibited. And if you do this kind of thing, for example, Argentina tried when they had a serious economic crisis in 2001. They took a lot of measures to get out of it, and they were sued under these kinds of provisions by 46 investors for more than 17 billion US dollars at an international tribunal, not in their local courts. And in one case alone, an investor can claim more than 50 billion US dollars. If you lose at this international court, as most governments do, and you don't pay this compensation, then there are tariffs on your exports, taxes on Malaysians' exports. So we have more information on all of these things. These are just some of the possible implications for Malaysia's development. And if you are interested, we can answer questions and give you more information. Thank you.
The Malaysian government began negotiations with two important continents, the European Union as well as the Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement. The first negotiation was between the European Union and Malaysia took place on 5th and 6th of December in Brussels, and the one on Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement took place I think on the 7th and 8th or 9th of December in New Zealand. It is quite clear from what Sanya just mentioned and also from the various readings that these FTAs are not about promoting trade, but they are about control of trade, and most importantly about promoting investor rights, foreign investor rights in Malaysia. Okay? Now this issue has already been raised in Parliament, but as of now, as of today, Parliament has not taken up this issue seriously. When I challenged the Deputy Minister of Trade on whether Malaysia has done a cost-benefit analysis on the trade agreement with the European Union, the answer was, we have done consultations. The question is, have you done a cost-benefit analysis of the agreement itself? The answer was, we have done consultation. And consultation with whom? Consultation with business communities though. So therefore, what is good for business is good for Malaysia though. What is good for business is good for Malaysia. And this has been pointed out just now by Sanya and Dr. Kumar, that these FTAs are not just about trade or business, it's also about development, it's about environment, it's all about policy space and a variety of issues though. So it is far more complex and complicated than just about trade though. So the question that we pose again to the Minister of Trade is, have you done a cost-benefit analysis? And if you have done a cost-benefit analysis, you tell us though what the cost-benefit analysis is telling you and how Malaysian small and medium industries, for example, will benefit from the free trade agreement with America, with the US or with the Europeans, and how by withdrawing or taking away or liberalizing government procurement, you're going to help Malaysian companies though, and Malaysians. And you'll use that in terms of development policy and policy space and so on and so forth. The argument is you will lose policy space. This is the argument when you lose government procurement and other policies as well. So the question that we want is transparency. Is there transparency on this issue? The answer is no. There is no transparency. Of course, the government will tell you this is our secret negotiations. Indeed, they are secret, but really nothing in the document is secret anymore. It's public knowledge though. But what we want to know is, what is the cost-benefit analysis for Malaysia? Now, for example, the European community, the European Union, is consulting their civil society, including the business communities. Why aren't we doing the same as well? They are talking to the civil society, they're talking to NGOs, they're talking to various different interest groups. Why aren't we? And why is the Malaysian government still hiding the fact that government procurement is not up for negotiations though, when it has already indicated to the Europeans and the Americans that government procurement is on the table for negotiations though. I think the government must come out clear on this, and we have also proposed in Parliament a Parliamentary Select Committee on FTAs. The impact of FTAs on the Malaysian economy should be reviewed by a Parliamentary Select Committee. These meetings are taking place in secret, and once the negotiations are over, technically they become law, because once you agree with the Europeans, once you agree with the Americans and the other 8 countries, then what you are saying to them is these agreements will become law. And that means Parliament will be rendered useless if there is no oversight on this issue. So what we are saying is Parliament should be brought into the discussion along with civil society, trade unions, political parties and so on and so forth.